Explosions in homes, shootings in broad daylight, innocent civilians losing their lives to grenades laying in the street, and other excessive violence. For the past few months, Swedish news has been dominated by such headlines, and it seems like there's no stopping anytime soon. Gang violence seems to have taken an unprecedented hold on the once so peaceful nation. But who are these gangs, and how do they operate? This is the story of Sweden's notorious Zero network. According to police information from early 2023, the Zero network was established slightly before 2020 and hails from Jordbro in Haninge, Sweden. The network was about 25 to 30 core members and many associates. The majority of these core members were born after 1995, while the associates in the lowest layer of the network are often as young as 13 years old. Their main activity has always been selling drugs in the Jordbro area, though the gang has been getting themselves involved in serious violence as well, but we'll touch on this later. Through the years, they had had many alliances. Some of their most notable alliances included the Bandidos MC and the Bredäng network. After the Bandidos got into a feud with the Foxtrot gang, the Zero network decided to switch sides and became an ally of the Foxtrot gang. The Foxtrot gang is led by Rawa Majid. I've made a video about him too, be sure to watch that as well. According to Swedish police, Rawa and his Foxtrot gang organised large-scale drug smuggling into Sweden for wider distribution both within Sweden and beyond its borders. Shipments of coke, cannabis and other substances are often marked with their fox symbols. At first, police thought Rawa was solely involved in drug smuggling. It wasn't until 2021 that police realised that a lot of evidence happening in Sweden could be linked to Rawa Majid and the way he went about taking over existing markets and controlling them. Fast forward to 2023. Rawa and his Foxtrot gang have become the face of all the violence that has taken place in Sweden these past years. It's important to zoom out and realise that Rawa's gang has been reliant on starting alliances with other gangs in order to take over markets as well as exert violence. And one of those most significant alliances was with the Zero network. At first, the Zero network started distributing and selling drugs for Rawa, but then slowly but surely, this gang became his go-to when he wanted to exert violence. One of the most prominent members of the Zero network was Ibou Badjie, also known as Louise Gucci. Ibou was a young man that got into trouble from a young age. There were early concerns among his school and the local police that he would be involved in more serious crimes, and they were right. Despite staying on the right track for a brief time, he got himself involved in crimes such as violent robberies and small-scale drug dealing. In December 2022, he was released after serving a month in jail for attacking a youth care worker. He lacks schooling and other manners and has a pattern of exceeding norms and boundaries both at home and outside, a judge said prior to the sentencing. While slowly falling away deeper and deeper into a life of crime, Ibou became one of Rawa Majid's men that would execute attacks for him. On the 20th of January 2023, Ibou orchestrated the attack that took place on the home of Swedish rapper Thryf's ex-girlfriend. Thryf was said to be linked to the Greek and his Dalen network, a gang Rawa Majid had a feud with. The incident was recorded and posted to social media for everyone to see. The video shows an apparent teenager. You can hear their young voices briefly, armed with a Kalashnikov, stand in front of a door as he takes his time to load the firearm. He aims at the door and unleashes 15 bullets right through the door. The rapper was not inside the home during the attack. It was only his ex-girlfriend and a child. Almost as a miracle, no one had got hurt. It was Ibou who recruited the two 14-year-olds to commit the attack, supplied them with the firearm, and instructed them in detail what they had to do via text messages. The video of the incident was shared online and made yet another big impact on Sweden. Sweden was in for another shock just a day later. On the 21st of January 2023, a witness filmed something happening in broad daylight in Skarpnäck. Let's play the video and see what happened. You could see a man literally running for his life in between the houses of the neighborhood while being chased by two seemingly young boys, one of which is carrying a firearm. And who was the man running for his life? An innocent 20-year-old without any connections to any criminal networks or other criminality. The two boys chasing him, two 15-year-olds from Jordbro, who according to the police belonged to the Zero network. They had been given the instructions by Ibou Badjie to take out someone who wears a Gucci hat and Gucci jacket, which is quite a broad description, though it was most likely aimed at a member of the Dalen network. However, in messages allegedly sent by Ibou, he can also be seen saying something along the lines of, "Just take out anyone, whoever." The man running for his life was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. He had nothing to do with any gang violence. It's actions like these that perfectly depict that anybody can become a victim to the ruthlessness and sheer audacity of these violent groups. Just a day after this incident, Ibou recruited a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 14-year-old for yet another mission, again in Skarpnäck. They were supposed to take out someone per the order of Ibou. The 20-year-old was driving the car and the two others were supposed to be the shooters. However, police interfered just in time for the shooting to take place by stopping the car at random. As soon as the car stood still, all three men ran away, though they were eventually caught. Two of them had thrown away their firearms while fleeing, and police suspected they had just stopped another attack from happening. A noteworthy detail is that Regional Police Chief Mattias Andersson said that the 14-year-old suspect said during the interrogation that he would use the money he was supposed to get to go with his friends to the movies. It sounds very innocent, however this young boy was seemingly okay with the fact of taking someone out. Where back in the day young boys would enter criminality via the conventional petty theft way, these new young criminals are immediately handed a Kalashnikov to take someone out. The older generation criminals used to work according to a set of rules, but this younger generation operates lawless. Shortly after this incident, Ibou was arrested after visiting a McDonald's in Södermalm. During several other arrests, police seized multiple mobile phones. By investigating these mobile phones, they were able to gain insight into a web of thousands of signal messages that exposed the attacks being orchestrated, as well as other incriminating evidence. This newly obtained information led to Ibou being accused of leading another attack, the brazen attack that had taken place in a sushi restaurant on the 28th of January 2023 in central Skogas. At around 12 minutes past 6, police were alarmed about a shooting that had taken place in a crowded restaurant. The victim was a 15-year-old boy. An ambulance helicopter that quickly arrived to the scene couldn't do anything anymore. The entire area was under police surveillance after the incident. A resident that lived close by said, "I heard 2 shots. At first, I wasn't sure if it was actually shots being fired, but it wasn't long before the ambulance helicopter arrived and I realized that I must have heard actual gunshots being fired." Another resident said, "It feels unsafe. It is unfathomable that children are involved in these gang feuds. It shouldn't be like this, but we are getting used to it." Despite Ibou being jailed as this incident took place, he was a prime suspect because messages showed that days prior to the hit, he was inquiring where the target could be and if anyone had extra information on him. It seemed like he acted on behalf of Rawa Majid. The reason for the hit on the 15-year-old boy was out of revenge. He was allegedly involved in a shooting concerning one of Rawa Majid's family members. Almost immediately after that incident, the retaliation was being planned. Ibou was ultimately sentenced to 18 years in prison for his share in all these attacks, and it is expected that further evidence will show he was involved in way more incidents. And what Ibou's lawyer Anton Strand had to say about his clients? "My client denies all allegations. He did not send any messages or instructions. That phone was used by several people. It is now believed that he is the only one and the other users aren't being investigated. This is a big mistake in the case." As the court expected, Ibou and his lawyer filed for an appeal of the sentence. Looping back to the hit in the sushi restaurant in Skogas, in the months after the hit, 10 people were arrested and suspected of being involved some way or another. One of those 10 people arrested was the alleged shooter, once again a young boy, this time aged 15 years old. He had gotten 100,000 Swedish krona for the deed, which is approximately 8,600 euros. Looking back at some of the previous hits I've covered on this channel, I do not think that I've ever seen the payout for a hit as low as 8,600 euros. Most of the time, it's north of at least 20 to 25,000 on the very low end. It's a perfect depiction that these young boys commit these cruel acts for relatively small amounts of money. The value of a life in their eyes is 0 to none. Well, for the 15-year-old shooter in this case, the money was more than enough to accept the job and afterwards flex with the money. He had taken several pictures of himself showing off the bundle of cash he'd earned. And what he did with the money? CCTV footage from department store NK showed him buying a brand new jacket for himself, worth 4,000 Swedish krona, approximately 345 euros. On the 2nd of October 2023, Ardavan Koshnud shared some compelling news. The Malmö University guest lecturer and senior researcher at Lund University warned that Sweden had become the bombing country of Europe. Worldwide, the country ranks second right after Mexico when it comes to bombings in countries that are currently not at war. Through the entire year, there had already been more than 130 bombings, and there are still 2 months left. Those involved often do not seem to realize that the risks they take will not only affect them, but also their relatives and loved ones. As plenty of examples have already depicted, sometimes these risks are repaid by their direct family members. On the 13th of October 2023, the harsh reality of being involved in these gang wars became evident once again. While Ibou was in jail, something shocking happened to his family. An hour past midnight, a man gained access to the house of Ibou's brother, Pa Modou, who is an artist and totally unrelated to any criminality nor the gang activity of his little brother. After gaining access to the house, the man searched the home and did the unthinkable. Neighbors recall hearing 4 shots. They had hoped it was fireworks, but deep down knew it wasn't. Brother Pa Modou wasn't in the house as he was elsewhere for work. He had asked his mother-in-law to help watch the kids while he was away. She gladly agreed, though she never could have imagined that she would fall victim to 2 of those 4 fired bullets. The other 2 bullets struck another innocent woman, aged 20 years old. There was another adult and 3 kids in the house as well, who were not physically injured, but one can only think about what this has done to their mental health. At 1:30 at night, the police were alarmed and arrived to the scene shortly after with a large police force, including sniffer dogs and a helicopter. Less than an hour after the incident, they managed to arrest the potential suspect sitting in the back of a taxi. It's not uncommon in Sweden for suspects to flee the scene in taxis, often booked by a third person or someone anonymous. The cab driver didn't even know he was driving around a potential suspect that had just taken 2 people's lives. In the trunk of the car, police found an automatic firearm they suspected of being used during the incident. After hearing all the tumult happen, neighbors and family members gathered and reminisced the woman and young lady who were fatally struck. In regard to the mother-in-law, a family member said, "She was really looking forward to coming and watch her grandchildren. She called me Thursday and told me how much she liked it. She was very happy and liked coming there." Another family member said, "She was a very sweet and happy person. Everybody loved her. She was looking forward to her trip to Finland this autumn and talked about it a lot. Now she will never be able to go on that trip anymore. It's a shock." In regard to the young woman, someone said, "She was fantastic, ambitious, and a warm person who had amazing potential. She was destined to make it in life despite having a difficult upbringing." The arrested suspect, a 16-year-old boy who, according to the police officers that arrested him, was laughing while being detained. Sources familiar with the boy said he had been involved in very heavy crime and violence earlier. They furthermore added that he was heavily influenced and ran the risk of being exploited sooner rather than later. That last part became painfully evident. To make matters even worse, the same boy was suspected of another hit just a day before. He had allegedly taken out a father in a shooting that also saw a woman and kid being hurt. A question that is often asked is, where are the parents of these kids? It's important to touch on this as well, as it's indeed a very valid question to ask, as many people simply blame the parents. A Swedish news outlet interviewed an anonymous parent whose child had gotten himself involved in very heavy crime. At age 6, his teacher already noticed something was off. "We sought help and found that he had autism and ADHD. I did not have any control over him. He would rather be with his friends. Whenever they told him to do something, he did it without thinking. I asked social services for help, but my son did not want to cooperate. He's now 18, but has the mental capacity of a 10-year-old, the man said. On the question of what he did to prevent his son from criminal activities, he said, "I did not know how to. I tried it via the social service, but he just did not want to cooperate." It's these types of boys that are recruited by the gangs and end up doing the dirty work. But the overall consensus is that it would be too easy to blame everything on the gangs and not critically look at the parents. One can only wonder how Ibou must have felt hearing this news in jail. For now, the feuds rage on. If anything, it's only getting worse, as the Rawa Majid's Foxtrot gang is falling apart, and what once was close friends are now sworn enemies of each other. News outlets, government officials and residents are said to be preparing for another unprecedented wave of violence throughout the country as this plays out. As you are watching this, I'm already working on the next video regarding the situation in Sweden. All you have to do is take a quick second and subscribe to my channel to stay up to date with the latest news. Also, please leave a like and a comment sharing your thoughts. It takes a second and immensely helps the channel to grow, so I can create more of these videos for you. Hope to see you in the next one.